I was already telling myself, well, you must be 9 round. Thanksgiving or something.
Good enough.
For us, every day is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Damodar, come on. Can you turn this light up? Thanks.
Whoops. Thank you. Yeah. Could happen. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mr. Bhagavad Paramahamsa Parudikacharya Ashtottara to the Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parudikacharya Ashtottara to the Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. I'm pretty sure we did 18. Are you sure? About the rain? Did I say about the rain? I give heat, I withhold it. I don't think we did 19. 19. 19. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 20th day of November 2017 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are on the bottom of page 399. This is text 19 of chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. Tapamiham hambarsham Nigriknam utsvajami cha Amitang chaiva mityuscha Sadasat chaham Arjuna Tapamiham varsham Nigriknam utsvajami cha Amitang chaiva mityuscha Sadasat chaham Arjuna Tapamyaham varsham Nigriknam utsvajami cha Amitang chaiva mityuscha Sadasat chaham Arjuna. Go ahead, Marcy. Tapamyaham varsham Nigriknam utsvajami cha Amitang chaiva mityuscha Sadasat chaham Arjuna. Tapami, give heat. Aham, I. Varsham, rain. Nigriknami, withhold. Utsvajami, send forth. Cha and Amritam, immortality. Cha and Eva, certainly. Mrityuhu, death. Cha and Sat, spirit. Asat, matter. Cha and Aham, I. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Translation. O Arjun, I give heat, and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality, and I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. Purport. Krishna, by his different energies, diffuses heat and light through the agency of electricity and the sun. During the summer season, it is Krishna who checks rain from falling from the sky. And then, during the rainy season, he gives unceasing torrents of rain. The energy which sustains us by prolonging the duration of our life is Krishna. And Krishna meets us at the end as death. By analyzing all these different energies of Krishna, one can ascertain that for Krishna there is no distinction between matter and spirit, or in other words, he is both matter and spirit. In the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, one therefore makes no such distinctions. He sees only Krishna in everything. Since Krishna is both matter and spirit, the gigantic universal form comprising all material manifestations is also Krishna, and his pastimes in Vrindavan as two-handed Shyamasundar, playing on a flute, are those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana Timurandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Just give me 1 second. So, Krishna is stating here, as he does elsewhere, in the 10th chapter we'll hear much more of this, how the idea here is that there's no point in worshipping anyone else besides Krishna. That will be emphasized when we read text 20 and 21 and 22, where he's talking directly about demigod worship. But you may recall that back in text 15 and 16, or 15, he described those who don't exactly worship him, but they have a different conception of the Absolute. Others, aside from my pure devotees, the Mahatmas, Back in text 15, he gave us a view of those who worship the Supreme in other forms. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many, and in the universal form. This is text 15. But then he describes that in all of these forms of worship, there's certain paraphernalia that you're going to have. Some kind of materials for the sacrifice, or your own intelligence in the effort to speculate about the Supreme. But Krishna is claiming that he is all of those things, especially in text 16. I am the ritual, I am the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant, I am the butter and the fire and the offering. Now what does that actually mean? It means that when you point to any element of a sacrifice, okay, here's the butter, the ghee. In these Vedic sacrifices, there's an enormous amount of ghee that's created that has to be present, which means they have to boil down the butter, and it's very expensive. So how does that come about? Well, you have the grass, you have the cows, you have the fire for boiling it down. All of that are different elements of Krishna's energy. So in that sense, he is all of those things. Plus, he is it is from him that the Vedic instructions have come in how to perform these sacrifices. Because a lot of Vedic sacrifices are not directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is the motivation to become purified or get liberation. It's simply some material motivation, ultimately. To get a better birth in this world, even to the extent of succeeding in your business, right? There are all kinds of sacrifices for that. Yagyas, prayers. So, but when you actually analyze it and you take the measure of any one of these sacrifices or any one of these procedures or whatever goes into it, it all traces back to Krishna. He's providing the intelligence, he's providing the mantras, he's providing the ghee, he's providing the fire. So you're actually worshiping Krishna, but you're worshiping him indirectly. That will become clear in future verses. And he goes on from that. I am the father of the universe. I am the mother, the support, the grandsire, the object of knowledge, the purifier, the syllable Om, the Rig, the Sama, the Yajurvedas. Everywhere you look, it's Krishna. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, the eternal seed. So clearly, Krishna is the most worshipable. And here he's just describing even climate change. If there's too much heat, well, I've sent that because of some karma, something you've done to create that. And if he withholds the rain, or he sends the rain, that's also coming from him. So in this way, the pure devotee, whose only purpose is to serve Krishna, he sees the reality, which is that he sees Krishna everywhere through his energy. Just like a flag, right? We have the United States flag. Okay, so people who have no idea what it means, it's just a colored piece of cloth, right? But it has a tremendous symbolism. It means something. So people, they salute the flag. If you see the flag at the United Nations, you say, "Oh, now I know the United States is represented here," right? And you see other flags; they all represent. So, in one sense, everything in this world is a flag. It's an evidence. A bit of evidence of Krishna when you know how to see it. Wherever you look, there are simply varieties of molecules and atoms, right? In the most basic sense. But when you get right down into it and you see those molecules and atoms in that arrangement, there's a tremendous amount of order there and purpose, right? You walk outside, well, it's not water, it's land, and that means it's a different configuration deep down in the molecules than that water that's just a few blocks away. And all of it together makes this wonderful earth that we have, which sustains life and gives us a chance to, do what we want to do. So the idea is when you see a purpose somewhere, you see great organization, there's a person behind it, there's a personal intelligence behind it. So Krishna is in these few verses, it's all very concise, He's teaching us to see him in all the phenomena and all of the things of this world, rather than to look elsewhere. He's claiming, no, I'm behind everything. It all started back in verse 8 of this, in verse 8 of the next chapter. He'll summarize it. It says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything in this world. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly worship me with all their hearts. It's one of the 4 essential verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So here he's just he's saying that those who worship something other than me are making a big mistake. That's what he's basically saying here. And in 20 and 21, specifically about the demigod worship, he'll deal with that, as he did in chapter 7 before. Okay, any questions about this verse? Let's go on to 19 and 20, 20 and 21. Now this one has a little bit different rhythm to it, so listen up. Try vidyam mam somapa puta papa. Yagnyaristva swargatim pratayante. And te punyamasara surendra lokam. Ashnandi divyan divideva bhogan. Those who study the Vedas and drink the soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. Purport. The word Trividya refers to the 3 Vedas, Sama, Yajur, and Rig. A Brahmin who has studied these 3 Vedas is called a Trivedi. Anyone who is very much attached to knowledge derived from the 3 Vedas is respected in society. Unfortunately, there are many great scholars of the Vedas who do not know the ultimate purport of studying them. Therefore, Krishna herein declares himself to be the ultimate goal for the Trivedis. Actually, Trivedis take shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and engage in pure devotional service to satisfy the Lord. Devotional service begins with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, and side by side trying to understand Krishna in truth. Unfortunately, those who are simply official students of the Vedas become more interested in offering sacrifices to the different demigods like Indra and Chandra. By such endeavor, the worshippers of different demigods are certainly purified of the contamination of the lower qualities of nature and are thereby elevated to the higher planetary systems or heavenly planets known as Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka, etc. Once situated on those higher planetary systems, one can satisfy his senses hundreds of thousands of times better than on this planet. So, Prabhupada will often quote, in the 15th chapter, we'll learn, it's 15:15, that's the number of the verse, Vedaischa sarvar ahameva Vedya. A really important line. It means, by all the Vedic knowledge, I am to be understood. And then the next line is, I am the writer of the Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas. So, here, the Trivedis, those who try to go to Indraloka, they don't understand that from the Vedas, Krishna is to be known. They get enamored. I mean, just imagine what it's like to accept the existence, forget about Goloka Vrindavan, but just the existence of this heavenly realm like Indraloka. And then there's all these other lokas which are actually said to be higher than Indraloka, Maharloka, Janaloka. And you can actually go there and live for an extraordinary length of time and enjoy, as it says right here, Deva Bhogan, godly delights. So you can imagine how enticing that will be if you say, well, okay, let's get it together. Let's hire the Brahmins and I'll follow the rules and regulations. And all the while, your motivation is material enjoyment, but extraordinary material enjoyment, unlike what anyone can experience here on this earth. I mean, we have a similar thing where people aspire to come to the United States. For them, this is their Indraloka. And the sacrifice may be very grueling, hair-raising, you know. I mean, we hear about all the immigrants who come from the South, and 99% more, they just want a better life for themselves, you know. And if they somehow are able to find a place in California where they can live, or any place in America, this is a very great step up, you know. sacrifices are performed, you have to follow certain ways of getting in, and you know, if you want to be legal, that's another whole hurdle, right? All simply so that they can enjoy the gifts of the American way of life. So the same principle is here. There's a process. There are higher realms of existence that can be reached by certain, you know, processes outlined in the Vedas, we accept. And that's called the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. Kanda simply means section, or we call it a canto. That's where the word canto comes from Kanda. And that part of the Vedas deals with this worshipping Indra, worshipping Agni, you know, the fire god and all these gods, to lift one up to their realm so you can enjoy like anything. And a lot of people think. And as Krishna says in the second chapter, Yamimam pushpidam vacham pavadan vipaschada veda vararata padananyarastiti varana, that those who are so-called knowers of the Vedas but actually don't really understand the Vedas, they say that these flowery language of the Vedas is enticing one to go to the heavenly realm. That's it. That's what the Vedas are all about. They say that's all there is. That's why they're called Vedavara Ratas. The word Rata has different meanings, but one of the meanings is a so-called practitioner. And this word appears in the Ishopanishad too, you'll see it. So-called knowers of the Vedas, so-called practitioners. You know, someone can have the title Trivedi. You know, we've got a devotee who comes, he's from Vrindavan, I think his last name is Chaturvedi. That means knower of the 4 Vedas, not just the 3 Vedas. You know, so this is all going on. So, but the Bhagavad Gita cuts through all of this, with just a few verses. The next verse will explain why it's foolish to aspire to go to Indraloka. Why do you think, Damodar? You must know this.
Because it's just kind of like, at one point or another, you're going to have to come back down. It's like,
that's the key. You come back down. You have to come back down. No matter how nice it is up there materially, for how long, you have to leave it eventually, and you know that you'll have to leave it. That definitely cuts into your enjoyment, right? In other words, those who are really intelligent, we should aspire for enjoyment that doesn't end. Now, right away, the material mind says, "Oh, well, there is no such thing, so forget about it." Right? Oh, look at our experience. We have the experience. You know, you're hungry, you eat. That's pleasurable, you know. But then you get full, you can't eat anymore. And every pleasure is like that. I don't have to go through all, you know, whatever you can enjoy here. And it takes a toll. And, you know, if we know a little bit of the Bhagavad Gita, the big toll it takes is that it means you're going to come back again. Because whenever you enjoy something in this world, you plant a desire seed to enjoy it again. Why not? Right? I mean, there's obviously a limit to how much you can enjoy anything while you're enjoying it. The senses have their limits, obviously, right? So then you have to stop. But the desire to enjoy goes on. And when that circumstance presents itself again, let's go for it. And before you know it, you're addicted to a certain line of enjoyment. You know, we talk about addictions, obviously through drugs and all these things, but that's just the more gross things. You can become addicted to anything. I like to point out this verse in the 15th chapter. Krishna talks about reincarnation. It's a very nice series of verses. And he describes, he says, when you leave the body, then you go into another body, another womb, and you get Shrotram, Chakshu, Sparshanamcha, Rasanam, Granam, Evacha, Adhishtaya, Manaschayam, Vishayan, Upasevate. So you get a certain ear, you get a certain eye, a certain set of touch, smell, taste, you see? And these senses are grouped around the mind. Now, of course, sometimes in the lower animals it's hard to see them, like insects. But, you know, if you have cows and all mammals, you can see even the fish, they have their rudimentary eyes, you know. And the sense of smell, they can even have, you know, at a distance. I mean, certainly it's there in dogs and cats, right? So, but the word upasevate is worth focusing on. That's the last word of the verse. And what are the meanings of the words? And I confirm this by looking up in the dictionary, the Sanskrit dictionary. Is becomes addicted to. And so in that new body of yours, maybe a human body, may not be a human body, you become addicted to a certain configuration of sensations, you know, which you experience in that body. Now, addiction means that it's a very powerful desire, And if you die with that addiction, then you go again you have it in the next life. That's the problem. So, so we just read text 20, so you can go up, but now text 21 tells what the problem with going to the heavenly planets is. So let's read that one. In 2 verses he describes the problem. And as you said, the problem is you have to come down. Te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam Chine punye martilokam vishanti Evam tahi dharmam anupapanna Gatagatam kama kama labhante. Okay. When those who have successfully gone to the Indraloka, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the 3 Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. Purport. One who is promoted to the higher planetary systems enjoys a longer duration of life and better facilities for sense enjoyment. Yet one is not allowed to stay there forever. One is again sent back to this earth upon finishing the resultant fruits of pious activities. He who has not attained perfection of knowledge, as indicated in the Vedanta Sutra, Janma Jasya Yataha, or in other words, he who fails to understand Krishna, the cause of all causes, becomes baffled about achieving the ultimate goal of life and is thus subjected to the routine of being promoted to the higher planets and then again coming down as if situated on a Ferris wheel, which sometimes goes up and sometimes comes down. The purport is that instead of being elevated to the spiritual world from which there is no longer any possibility of coming down, one simply revolves in the cycle of birth and death on higher and lower planetary systems. One should better take to the spiritual world to enjoy an eternal life full of bliss and knowledge and never return to this miserable material existence. So this is a central principle of Bhakti Yoga, and that is that we're not settling for anything less than the absolute truth, than absolute perfection. Material life is like a real compromise, you know. You're constantly having to compromise. As you grow up as a kid, you know, you have dreams. I mean, I know I did. I had dreams of being a baseball player, you know, professional baseball player. Dreams. And then after a little while, I found, you know, I was fairly good at it, but not that good. I had to give that one up, right? I had dreams of being having a perfect body. You know, I was a fairly good athlete, you know, and all this kind of stuff. So you grow up, and gradually you have to, your sights, you know, come down. And it's like that, you know, then, okay, normal course, you get married, you know, you have children and everything, but does it ever really live up to the hype? Any of these relationships? They never can. You know, it's all coming ideal things through the magazines and the media and everything. You know, the perfect person loves the perfect person, and you know, but it never meets that criterion. Your actual life doesn't. And as you get older, you really have to start compromising. You know, so many things you can't do anymore. You know, I mean, Hare Krishnas are kind of in a special case because I'm still doing the same thing I did 40 years ago. Hare Krishna. And the same transcendental pleasure is there. It doesn't end. But in the normal course of events, you know, as I saw my mother and father get older and older, you know, it's just like it's a scary situation. And then at the end of it is this, you know, abyss. You don't know what's there. Death, you know. It's going to end everything. So in the Vedic culture, there's all kinds of strategies for dealing with that. And one of them is, well, okay, you know, you want to enjoy, well, don't just enjoy the pleasures here, go up to Indraloka, and there's all kinds of detailed descriptions. There's Nandana gardens with beautiful nymphs, you know, and all this thing. And you can live for, you know, thousands and millions of years. Well, that's practically infinite, so let's go for that. You see? But it's all the same principle. of Maya, the illusory energy, casting before you some allurement that will keep you in illusion so that you continue to forget Krishna. She's testing us to see if we're really worthy of getting out. It's a big prison house. And so Krishna is saying, in a few words here, I mean in Bhagavatam there's much more detail, of how the heavenly planets are a bad bargain. In the heavenly planets, we find, the demons are there. They also got their planets, and sometimes they evicted the demigods. Where do they go? Who knows? They're going here and there. In other words, you're not free of anxiety. Even there. You can't be, because time is passing, and you have enemies, and you have rivals. And this is explained in the 11th canto. Nicely. So, therefore, he says, Tasmat gurum papadyeta jigyashu shreya uttamam shabde parecha nishnatam brahmanubhishamashayam. This is one of the teachings of the 9 Yogendras. I keep coming back to them. They're so great. So, in 3 verses, it describes how there's really ultimately no happiness here on this plane, and even if you go to the heavenly planets, you still have your rivals, and you still have to come down, and it's temporary, and like that. Therefore, then we have the therefore. If you want the ultimate good, is that Jigya Shreya Uttamam. Shreya Uttamam. This word Shreya should be familiar. Arjuna used the same word in his verse of surrender back in chapter 2. Yakshreya Yaksyan Nishitam Bruhitanme. You please tell me for certain how I can achieve my ultimate good. Shreya. Intelligent, you should go for the ultimate good. So here he said, therefore, if you're interested in the ultimate good, means eternal happiness, eternal peace, none of this millions of years, eternal, then you have to approach a guru, a teacher, a spiritual master, and he gives the instructions. And surrender. Well, that's a pretty heavy commitment. I have to know who that is. So, Shabde parecha nishnatam brahmanupashamashim. Shabde means fixed in the Shastra, in the actual, realized in the Shastra. Nishnatam, Brahmani means the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Personality. Shabde Pare. Pare is the aspect of Brahman, that's the personality of Godhead. Shabda is the aspect of the personality of Godhead, that's the word. The word is the Shastra. And Upashamashriyam, completely detached from the illusion of trying to enjoy in this world. That's the criteria. Not light criteria. But that's the personality, the representative of Krishna, who can give you the clue how you can progress toward your ultimate good or the ultimate happiness. That eternal life, ever-increasing bliss, no time, no death. You never find that on the material heavenly planets. So that's what we're after. Now it's a big step for us Kali Yugites, all of whom I assume pretty much were infected with the material disease of trying to enjoy in this world, and not having any kind of support from the environment. The environment is all, that don't even try to go to any other, just try to enjoy now as much as possible. You don't know what's going to happen. In these Trivedis, they're deferring their enjoyment to much later, but sacrifices, severe austerities, all of this, so that, we'll go to heaven. But this world is like, maybe defer it for a couple of days, but then the weekend comes and just blow it up. It's a very corrupted society we live in. It's saturated with the modes of passion and ignorance. So, but how wonderful it is that the process of bhakti, as given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and transmitted through the parampara and given to us in a form suitable for us to practice, can actually give us the aspiration to overcome all of this allurement and all of this ignorance and all of these modes and go back home, back to Godhead. That aspiration should at least be there. It's amazing how powerful it is, that this chanting of the holy name, which can, if you do it right, even with a little sincerity, can cut off all of this, distraction and attachment to the material, and make you more and more attached to Krishna, which is the ultimate goal of life. That attachment ultimately matures into bhava and prema, ecstasy and love of Godhead. And then you're home free. You know, never again to take birth. So, that's the problem with this going to the heavenly planets. So they fall down again. Any questions on any of this stuff? Yes, Prabhu.
You mentioned this term, Shreya Uttam.
Yes.
Highest good, or,
Yes, Shreya Uttam, the highest good. Exactly.
So, how does one who has, being associated with the material entity, has developed so many desires, not for his highest good, and being propelled by his order nature, he knows that it's the ultimate goal of life is to attain the spiritual sky, going back to God. But then, wait, I needed to do at least one more last time. So we try to do something else. How do we...
Usually we don't think of going to the heavenly planets.
Maybe.
It's not, I mean, there's no switch that you can push that's going to protect you from that, because the illusion is very strong. As Prabhupada mentioned, the one cure, the one remedy, the one medicine he has is the chanting. If we actually take shelter of that seriously, then we'll get a glimpse, when we're absorbed in that chanting, of the spiritual platform, as Prabhupada called it, the spiritual frame of mind, the spiritual consciousness. In other words, you'll feel, as I like to point out, I just tell these little stories from my days in Krishna. Back in, some of you maybe have heard of this, but some of you haven't. So back when I lived in Philadelphia in the early 80s, 81, 82, 83, we used to go downtown for Harinam. And like many of the big cities, like this one, they have one part of the city, city that they really want the tourists to come to. And so they put a lot of money in it. So they made a whole block where there's no traffic, there's no vehicular traffic, and you just walk around and there's all these shops, some of them pretty fancy, And so, and there's a kind of a park in the middle. So we would go down there and chant, in the evening, Saturday night or something. So I remember this distinctly. So we're chanting, the usual chanting is very blissful, people who are seeing, handing out mantra cards and books, and then you smell this fragrance of baking, cookies baking. There was a store where they would bake cookies, chocolate chip cookies, whatever, and it's very thick, And obviously they're pumping it out there to draw people in to buy their cookies, and a lot of people, people are going, yes, where are the cookies, and not like that, but you can, it's going to attract you. So we're chanting, and of course you're smelling it. But for the devotees, for myself, and I think most of the devotees said, well, okay, materially that smells pretty good, but it's boga, it's not something you really want to, lust over. And you just go on chanting, and the desire that's kind of flickering in your mind is extinguished, because it's a material thing. You know what I'm saying? So you can directly experience there this kind of a visceral thing, something that's nice to eat, and you're hungry. Okay, it smells nice, but the desire is cauterized. I don't know how to put it. It doesn't really take root because of what you know, and because of also what you're experiencing, the holy name. You're experiencing Krishna in the holy name, and it's so sweet that it's sweeter than any chocolate chip cookie. That's not offered to Krishna. And of course we don't eat chocolate, basically. So the point is that you have to stay on that level. The challenge is because we've been talking or reading in the morning class about Tivra Bhakti. This word Tivra comes in again and again. Tivra means intense. Because anything that you do, any process that you do, you can do it full on, you can do it 100%, or you can kind of do it superficially, You know what I'm saying? So because we're so conditioned, the tendency, unless we're really inspired and we're in good company, good association, is to that which is going against the tendency of the conditioned mind to enjoy the senses. There's going to be a push back from the conditioned mind and senses, from Maya. So unless you keep your intensity, this word Dridhavrata, which comes in the 7th chapter, which means firm vow and determination and all that, then you're going to find yourself feeling at a certain point in the day or a certain point in your practice, deviation, allurements, lack of enthusiasm, and that's the material conditioning, flighting, the allurement of the modes of nature. So that's what sadhana means. That's where the practice is to kick out, or progressively increase, let's say, the time and the amount of your intense devotion and your enthusiasm. And sometimes it's just a matter of acting enthusiastic. I remember many years ago when I was in, it was Brooklyn, I think. I had I was a 2-year devotee, and we had people who had been there for a few months, so I was a senior devotee, And I remember telling one devotee, because he's standing in Arti, and beats going on, and was dancing. So why don't you dance? Well, I don't feel like dancing. Well, then you dance, and after a while, a little before long, you feel like dancing. Krishna will inspire you. So you chant. What is this sound? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And if you actually hear, yeah, there's something. It's just like, Prabhupada would often say, you don't need to know how the medicine is working, just take it. You don't need to know what's going on. It works. So many times in our devotional life, especially near the beginning, you just do it, and then let the process work, and as far as possible, you give all the things that are favorable for controlling the mind and fixing it on Krishna. Early morning, okay, I'll do it. I'll get up, a cold shower, all right, and so you do it, and then you're there, and you find, yes, it's a quiet time, and there's Tulsi, and it's easier to chant, and after some time, it becomes second nature. So that's how it works. There's going to be periods of doubt. There'll be periods of less enthusiasm, but you have to fight through them. Stay with the program, and regulated program. And before long, it becomes second nature, And I'm telling you, one of the key things is to apply your intelligence. That's why I always say, because like our central program, the morning program, or here, or everywhere, there's all this Sanskrit flying by, sometimes Bengali, a lot of terms. But try to concentrate and understand what's going. Apply your intelligence to the purpose. Think about it, talk about it, write notes on it like you like to do, Because that intelligence is key. Let's just go to one series of verses. Page 275, you'll find about dhyana yoga, Krishna's describing the state of samadhi for the mystic yogi. So in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by the practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self, that's Kappa as self, that's Krishna in the heart, by the pure mind, and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Now that, of course, he's describing mystic yoga, but all of this applies to the accomplished bhakti yogi. And the part that really I wanted to focus in, which is, it didn't find its way into the translation here, but the buddhi-grayam. See, buddhi-grayam and tindriyam means, by means of a fixed intelligence, this state of ultimate happiness is attainable, accessible through one's intelligence, one's transcendental intelligence. That's in the Sanskrit itself. Sukham atyantikam means ultimate happiness. Buddhi-grayam, which is attainable through your spiritualized intelligence, and is atindriyam, is transcendental to the senses. So, and Bhakti Yoga is sometimes called Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga, that comes up in the next chapter, and also second chapter. So you can't put your intelligence on hold. The intelligence is this close to the soul. You know, you got the hierarchy, the super soul, the soul, then the false ego, the intelligence, the senses, the mind and the senses. So your higher self is right there, you know, with this purified intelligence, which comes from a lot of hearing and applying it. And that's how you can mitigate, you know, these tendencies to become a little weaker and attracted. You know, it's in transcendental intelligence, which is what this book, this study of the Gita is all about. Okay, shall we hear Krishna book? All right, we'll resume text 22, which is another very important verse. This whole chapter is important. So I want you to try to memorize the entire chapter, Sanskrit and English. All right, by Monday. Work on it. I'll help you. All right, Krishna. All right, we are in Krishna book. Let me see where we are. We're somewhere in the Rasa dance. Krishna hides from the gopis. All right, so Krishna hid from the gopis. The gopis are madly searching for him. And they're becoming so mad that they even think they are Krishna. They're starting to enact his pastimes. It's quite amazing. So they're still searching, and they're addressing the trees, the deer, like that. You know. After addressing the innumerable plants and trees and the earth, they turned their faces toward the beautiful deer who were looking at them very pleasingly. This is what the deer do. They look at you with these beautiful doe eyes. That's where the doe eyes comes in. And so there's one verse in the songs of the gopis, Danya samudagatayopi harinyeta ya nandanamapata pachittabesham. That the gopis back home, they're churning yogurt, but they're thinking of Krishna in the forest, and they're going through one after another and said, just see these foolish deer. You know, they're born as animals after all, but they come before Krishna and they perform their service. And you know what their service is? Just to look at him with great love. That's all they can do. They can't really do much else, but that's enough. And they do it, the male and female deer together come like that and offer their service to Krishna. So now these deer were looking at the gopis very pleasingly. It appears, they addressed the deer, that Krishna, who is the supreme Narayan himself, must have passed along this way, or through this way, along with his companion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. That's Radharani. Otherwise, how is it possible that the aroma of his garland, which is smeared with the red kumkum from the breast of the goddess of fortune, can be perceived in the breeze blowing here? It appears that they must have passed through here and touched your bodies, and thus you are feeling so pleasant and are looking at us with sympathy. Will you kindly, therefore, inform us which way Krishna has gone? Krishna is the well-wisher of Vrindavan. He is as kind to you as to us. Therefore, after leaving us, he must have been present in your company. O fortunate trees, we're thinking of Krishna, the younger brother of Balaram. While passing through here, with one hand resting on the shoulder of the goddess of fortune, and the other hand twirling a lotus flower, he must have been very much pleased to accept your obeisances, and he must have glanced at you with great pleasure. Some of the gopis then addressed their gopi friends. Dear friends, why don't you question these creepers, who are so jubilantly embracing the big trees, as if the trees were their husbands? It appears that the flowers of the creepers must have been touched by the nails of Krishna. Otherwise, how could they feel so jubilant? After searching for Krishna here and there, the gopis became fatigued, and then they began to talk like madwomen. They would satisfy themselves only by imitating the different pastimes of Krishna. One of them imitated the demon Putana, and one of them imitated Krishna and sucked a breast. One gopi imitated a hand-driven cart, and another gopi lay down beneath the cart and threw up her legs, touching the wheels of the cart, as Krishna did to kill the demon Shakatasura. One gopi imitated child Krishna and lay down on the ground. And one gopi became the demon Trinavarta. Who remembers what Trinavarta did? Yeah, he's the tornado demon. and carried the small child Krishna by force into the sky. And one of the gopis began to imitate Krishna while he was attempting to walk, ringing his ankle bells. 2 gopis imitated Krishna and Balaram, and many others imitated their cowherd boyfriends. One gopi assumed the form of Bakasura, and another forced her to fall down as the demon Bakasura did when he was killed. Now, Baka is actually a big crane with a big, sharp beak, not a duck. So this Bakasura was killed by Krishna. Similarly, another gopi defeated Vatsasura. Just as Krishna used to call his cows by their different names, so the gopis imitated him, calling the cows by their respective names. One of the gopis began to play on a flute, and another praised her the way Krishna's boyfriends praised him while he played on his flute. One of the gopis took another gopi on her shoulders, just as Krishna used to take his boyfriends. Absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, the gopi who was carrying her friend began to boast that she was Krishna herself. "All of you, just see my movement." One of the gopis raised her hand with her covering garments and said, "Now don't be afraid of the torrents of rain and severe hurricanes. I'll save you." In this way, she imitated the lifting of Govardhan hill. One gopi forcibly put her feet on the head of another gopi and said, "You rascal Kaliya, I shall punish you severely. You must leave this place. I have descended to this earth to punish all kinds of miscreants." Another gopi told her friends, "Just see, the flames of the forest fire are coming to devour us. Please close your eyes, and I shall immediately save you from this imminent danger." In this way, all the gopis were madly feeling the absence of Krishna. Now, you have to remember, they actually thought they were Krishna. They weren't just imitating. They were imitating, but they really were absorbed thinking they were Krishna. They inquired about him from the trees and plants. In some places they found the imprints of the marks on the soles of his feet, namely the flag, the lotus, the trident, thunderbolt, etc. After seeing those footprints, they exclaimed, "Oh, here is the impression of the marks on the soles of Krishna's feet. All the marks, such as the flag, lotus, trident, thunderbolt, are distinctly visible here." So they're like detectives now, you see. They're just following. They began to follow the footprints, and shortly they saw another set of footprints beside them, and immediately they became very sorry. "Dear friends, just see. Whose are these other footprints? They are beside the footprints of the son of Maharaj Nanda. It is certainly Krishna passing through, resting his hand on some other gopi, exactly as an elephant goes side by side with his beloved mate. We must therefore understand that this particular gopi served Krishna with greater affectionate love than ourselves." So this is actually a verse. We don't see the Sanskrit here. This is the verse in the Bhagavatam where the name Radha appears hidden. Anya Radhito Nunam, that's the line. It means that this other one has worshipped Krishna best. It's said that if Shukadev had directly uttered the names of the gopis, especially Radharani, he would have fainted in ecstasy and couldn't keep speaking. So he had to be careful not to utter the names of the gopis. That's one explanation why we don't. Because of this, although he has left us, he could not leave her company. He's taken her along with him. Dear friends, just imagine how the dust of this place is transcendently glorious. The dust of the lotus feet of Krishna is worshipped even by Brahma and Shiva and the goddess of fortune Lakshmi. But at the same time, we're very sorry that this particular gopi has gone along with Krishna, for she's sharing the nectar of Krishna's kisses and leaving us aside to lament. Oh friends, just see, at this particular spot we don't see the footprints of that gopi. It appears that because there were some pinpricks from the dried grass, Krishna took Radharani on his shoulder. Oh, she is so dear to him. Krishna must have picked some flowers in this spot to satisfy Radharani, because here, where he stood erect to get the flowers from the high branches of the tree, we find only half the impression of his feet. Dear friends, just see how Krishna must have sat down here with Radharani and tried to set flowers in her hair. You can be certain that both of them sat together here. Close quote. Krishna is self-sufficient. He has nothing to enjoy from any other source. Yet, just to satisfy his devotee, he treated Radharani exactly as a lusty boy treats his girlfriend. Krishna is so kind that he always tolerates the disturbances created by his girlfriends. In this way, all the gopis pointed out the faults of the particular gopi who had been taken alone by Krishna. They said that this chief gopi, Radharani, must be very proud of her position, thinking herself the greatest of gopis. Then they say, "Yet how could Krishna take her away alone, leaving all of us aside, unless she is extraordinarily qualified and beautiful? She must have taken Krishna into the deep forest and told him, "My dear Krishna, I am now very tired. I cannot go any further. Please carry me wherever you like." When Krishna was spoken to in this way, he might have told Radharani, "All right, better get on my shoulder." But immediately Krishna must have disappeared, and now Radharani must be lamenting for him. "My dear lover, my dearest, you are so fine and so powerful. Where have you gone? I am nothing but your most obedient maidservant. I am very much aggrieved. Please come and be with me again." But Krishna is not coming to her. He must be watching her from a distant place and enjoying her sorrow. All the gopis then went further and further into the forest searching out Krishna. But when they learned that actually Radharani was left alone by Krishna, they became very sorry. This is the test of Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, they were a little envious that Krishna had taken Radha alone, leaving aside all the other gopis. But as soon as they knew that Krishna had also left Radharani and that she was alone lamenting for him, they became more sympathetic to her. Okay, I'm getting absorbed here, forgetting the time. So we'll pick that up tomorrow. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Divine Grace, Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Jai. ISKCON DVD Founder Church, Shila Prabhupada Jai. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pradipika Church, Ashtotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Jai. Nandakoti Vaishnava Niki Jai. Nama Church, Shila Haridas Thakur Jai. Thank you, Holy Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaur, Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Govinda Shama Radhakrishna Gita Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gautama Ki Jai. Yamuna Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Guru and Guranga. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Allah
बनिधि धीर धीर जन प्रिय कृष्ण कीर्तन गान नर्तन प्रभु प्रेमामृतां बनिधि धीर धीर जन प्रिय प्रिय करो पूजित चैतन्य कृपा भरऊ भुवि भुव भारा तारक वंदे रूप सनातन रघुज श्री जीव गोपालक वंदे रूप सनातन रघुज कृष्ण कीर्तन गान कीर्तन गान नर्तन परम प्रेम वीर वीर जन प्रिय प्रिय करो कृपा भरऊ श्री चैतन्य कृपा भरऊ भुवि भुव मानव अंतरक वंदे रूप सनातन रघुज श्री विचार